We're preparing to live stream, and I'll let you know when we're live.
Okay.
We go.
So we're live now.
We're on.
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of rainy here in Florida, so the connection is a little bit sketchy, but welcome everyone to Heart and Soul Living an Extraordinary Life. And my name is Michele Landers, and I'm a board certified life coach, a certified hypnotherapist and numerologist, the author of 2 books, The Tao of Numbers and The Year of Living Miraculously. And I've studied and taught in the fields of spirituality, metaphysics, psychology, law of attraction, self-empowerment, and a toe dip in quantum physics now for over 30 years. So every week on Heart and Soul, I like to have really thought-provoking topics and great speakers who also share their experiences and insights. And also as a bonus, every week, and I really want to encourage people to contact me based on whatever that topic is for the evening, I'll send you an exercise or whatever it is for that night, something inspirational to help you step into your extraordinary life. Because here on Enlightened World Network, light workers, energy practitioners, and more have all gathered together to bring you positive and uplifting programming to support you in your spiritual and your mental and your emotional growth, which I believe right now we are all in desperate need of, more so than ever on this planet. So please do check out Enlightened World Network, which is online on Facebook and on YouTube. So tonight's topic is fear. And we're going to discuss fear and some curious facts that you may not have realized or known about fear and anxiety. And again, you'll also have an opportunity, and I'll tell you how you can do that, to download a questionnaire that I think might to identify your fears and perhaps even figure out where they began. And so that's a great download to have, and you just have to let me know and I'll tell you how to do that. But before we do that, and before we even talk in depth about the topic of fear and anxiety, I want to introduce my guest tonight, which is the wonderful and beautiful and talented Niobe Weaver. Now, excuse me, Niobe is an emotional healer, a spiritual midwife, and a teacher. She's a channel for the light language, for the divine. Her voice has an ethereal healing quality that can shift and change the energy of her clients. Niobe has been healing and changing lives for over 25 years. She's a speaker, she's a songwriter, she's a recording artist and author, and she's contributed her music and voice to award-winning educational video, The Song of the Salish Sea. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I'm sure she'll correct me on that. And she's open for authors like Deepak Chopra and Cohen, who is a good friend of mine, who's an incredible teacher and a spiritual teacher. So I've had the opportunity to speak with Niobe on a few occasions, and I think her energy is huge and beautiful and healing. So Niobe, welcome.
Oh, Michele, thank you so much. Hello, hello. It's wonderful to be here with you. Michele and I are we're kindred spirits that are getting to know each other. And it's just an honor and a pleasure to be here on your show and to be with your people. Hello, everyone. It's evening time in Florida, and it's still afternoon here in Southern California. And yeah, it's that word, it's Salish, and that is what actually the name of the Puget Sound there off of Seattle in Washington State was. The natives know it as the Salish Sea. And yeah, and that was fun. It was an educational and video for children, and it won a couple of awards. And there was a woman that heard me singing around Christmas, and she said, "That's the voice I want." And she had the lyrics, but I had the melody. So that's how that all came together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I believe in synchronicities, and I believe in how energy connects up all the time. It connects us with the right people. I would love to have you on another. I know you do the singing bowls, correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah. And that would be great to do on Zoom. Don't you think we could do that some night?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, I'm with Enlightened World on a meditation a day. I've been bringing the bowls into the meditations.
Yes.
That I've been offering on those once a month. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking of we could do something else on here as well. So what I would love for you to share your experience that you've had recently around the whole topic of fear. And if you could share that, I know that it could be really helpful to our listening and viewing audience right now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for asking me to bring this and to share this with others. We're all in it. We're all having some form of fear really rise in us currently, recently, and everybody's fears are different, but it all has the one common factor is that it's fear. It's fear, and it shows up as anxiety. It shows up as anger. It shows up as fatigue. It shows up as depression. It shows up as I want to eat. It shows up as all I want to do is sleep. And there's all forms and ways that fear will manifest itself until we say, wait a minute, what's going on? And you bring yourself back in and you get really honest with your truth. You have a real talk with yourself and yourself and say, wait a minute, what's really going on here? And what's going on is I'm afraid. I'm in fear. And my fear dance happened to be with my oldest son. My oldest son called me. Let's see, we started having COVID-19 hit in March. It was like the first week, I think, it was the first week to second week of March is when we really, in the States here, it hit. And there was the, what is happening? What is this? And its ramifications, the power of this virus, the contagious, how highly contagious it is. And it was beginning to hit hospitals. Well, my son sent me a text and said, Mom, my unit has become a COVID floor unit. My son is a nurse in Harborview Hospital in Seattle. And I was like, okay, all right. So as this experience that we've all in the world has been going through, and it's personal for each one, is my personal experience started to roll with this. At first, I was okay. Okay, that first couple of weeks into March after he texted me, and then it started to really, then it ramped up. Then it became this wave. Then it became this motion, and there was the awareness of how incredibly contagious and dangerous and deadly this virus is. And I was doing fine. I'm doing fine. He's fine. And then it hit me. I wasn't fine. I was not okay. I was, I found myself being agitated and quick to wanting to flare up and having some sort of just disgruntledness or anger was beginning to rise up. And then it was a thing of, I didn't want to have to admit the depth of my fear that my oldest child, my son, was placing himself in danger every day that he went to work.
That had to be terrifying.
It was. He was risking his life every day that he went to work. And it was, I found another woman that, a colleague that her adult children, her daughter is a nurse at a hospital down here, and her son is a paramedic. And she just wound up having to call on the phone one morning, and we said, well, how are you doing with all of this? And it just opened up those gates about the fact that she says, I cry almost every day. And the thoughts and the prayers and just wrapping around her children. And that was something I had not allowed myself to go there. I'd not allowed myself to cry. I had been really penning it up, and I've been holding it in. And it was, and then it started to happen. I started to let it go. But when there was the commercials that we would see about our heroes, our people on the front lines, and they would show pictures of doctors and nurses and everything, and oh, let's give it to our heroes. And that's when it started to just well up, and I couldn't watch them. And the tears started to flow. And a morning came when I just broke down, and I allowed, it's still there. I allowed it to just express itself, just to let the tears and the fear just move in and through my body. And that release was incredible in the sense of, one, there was nothing I can do about it. There is nothing I can do about it. He is my 35-year-old son. He's married. And his wife even told me, she said, I can't look at billboards that say about our heroes. She says, I can't watch the commercials. She says, I get mad. She says, because what it does is it reminds me of the risk he takes every day he goes to work. And finally, going into that place, the tears and the acceptance of it and saying, this is natural, this is normal, I have to feel this. And at the same time, it was also an honoring of my child, of this grown man. This is his soul path. He is doing exactly what he is here to do. And there's nothing I can do about it.
So it was in acceptance, and that is, it's really a beautiful story, because I did a little newsletter about these heroes, these unsung heroes for Memorial Day. You know, we talked about the people who have given their life for our country, and now we have these first responders and the people on the front lines here who are also risking their lives for our safety. And that is something that we all, and I believe we need to honor, but we don't think about, at least honestly, I haven't thought about the mother, or, you know, I've thought about maybe the wives or the children, but I never thought about the parents of that child and what they must be going through. And I have a son and a daughter, so I can only imagine the fear that, as you described, that just, you know, rushes through you and fills you up. And you also said something that was so important. You came to a place of acceptance, which is really one of the toughest things that we can ever do in any situation, because we fight against it. We think that acceptance is saying, oh, it's okay. And that's not what you're saying at all,
Right.
right? You're not saying
Right.
that. You're saying that
It
you've
is.
yeah, it is what it is.
It is. And it's Khalil Gibran has one of his passages is we don't own our children, they were born to life. And that's the truth. That's the truth, that at some point, you know, I know my mother or my father, you know, had fear or worried about me. When we give birth to these children, we raise them up, and they come into adulthood, it's like we've been the steward of bringing this child into the world, this soul, this being into the world. And when they step into their life, whether they're 3 years old or 5 years old, my biggest thing when both of my kids wanted to ride a little further out in the neighborhood on their bicycles, and I said yes, that is when I had this depth of a realization that the biggest lesson about having a child is learning how to let go. And letting go, yeah.
Really, up until my father passed away, which was now like 17 years ago, he used to, when he would talk to me or he would ask me how things are, he would always do it with a sense of, you know, how are things? What's going on? And I said, Dad, you know, why do you worry so much? And he said to me, because that's my job. And I thought about that, and it stayed with me because I realized that I started thinking about worry and what it does and what it doesn't do. And so what worry does do is it affects us. It creates a lot of stress on us, releases all of those hormones, cortisol and everything else. But the one thing that worry doesn't do is change anything.
Yeah.
And what often in sessions, I'll ask a client if they're dealing with worry. I'll say to them, so how many hours of worry do you think you have to put into this situation to change it? And I would say, what, maybe 10 hours, maybe 2 weeks, maybe an hour. And they get it immediately because the answer is a big fat 0. There is no amount of worrying. You can't worry somebody better.
No.
You can't worry somebody out of a bad situation. You can't worry yourself out of any fearful situations. In fact, the truth about that is the more we worry, well, I believe that we have like this pipeline to the divine, and that's how we get the downloads, and that's how we get the something, that's how we get the communication, that's how we get that and those intention juices, law of attraction, intention juices going. So my feeling is that just like an artery that gets clogged with plaque, when you have things like stress and worry and fear and so many other, whatever other negative characteristics you can think of, or behaviors, shame, guilt, it clogs up that pipeline to the divine, and you stop that flow. So, but you know, fear is experienced in your mind, but it triggers a strong physical reaction in your body. And just like I just mentioned, it releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your blood pressure can go up, your heart rate increases, all of it not good. But
your body gets tight.
Yes.
I was so surprised after I released and I allowed myself to cry and have to shed the tears and the sounds and everything of tears and crying. I was amazed at how I was like, oh, wow, how I had been holding it in my body. My pain that I was having in my body went away because I had been like this. I realized, and it's so unconscious that we're holding on for dear life. And like you said about worry, you're worrying about something that hasn't even happened. That hasn't even been, it's a possibility. It's maybe it's not even happened. Or we're looking back and beating ourselves up. I coulda, woulda, shoulda, was supposed to be, and instead of that being present right here and now.
Real, and that's what it all usually comes down to anyway. And we have all different ways of discussing it, but to live a most peaceful life is to be in the present moment. And that, listen, I'll be the first one to tell you that is challenging. It's not always easy. Excuse me. except I have to say that when I do get into that place where I'm just here without either living a past or projecting a future, it's the most beautiful, peaceful place you could ever be. And we have all these different tools to get us there, like meditation. So something else that I discovered about fear was really interesting. I just never thought of it in these terms, but fear sometimes, people like fear, a little bit of fear. Fear can become pleasure, because when you do something like, I'm not one of those people. I don't like being frightened. I just don't. But there are these, certainly there are people, and maybe people who are out there listening to us right now or watching us, that they just love to be scared to death. Roller coasters, haunted house, horror movies. The thrill doesn't necessarily, it's this high that they get, you know, some people get, and again,
It's that shot of adrenaline.
It's that, right. So it just arouses everything. And that means that any positive feelings you experience afterwards are kind of intensified. So I found that was really, really interesting. And I also know that for anybody who is watching or listening, there is a difference between fear and phobia. Because if you're a little bit uneasy about, well, okay, say you watched Jaws, okay, and then you kind of got, oh, wow, and maybe you were just a little bit hesitant about swimming in the ocean. But if you are traumatized by that, I mean, I know I was after I saw that movie.
I remember that too. Yeah.
I don't want to go in those happy people, and they set it up so beautifully, right? He's so great at that. Everybody's happy singing. It's a beautiful weekend holiday, and then bam. But if it stays with you, if you refuse then to go to the beach, and this might not be the greatest example, but it's the best one I could come up with right now, then you might be dealing with a phobia, because the difference is pretty simple. You know, fears are kind of common reactions that we all go through, but a fear becomes a phobia when it interferes with your ability to function on a normal level, or, you know, maintain a normal life. So if anybody is in a place where they feel as if fear has overtaken them, then you might want to address that. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things we can do. And I know that you have some things to share as well. And I know that although this coronavirus is certainly a health issue to be taken seriously, it's important that we don't allow fear and worry overtake us. And as difficult and challenging as it might be, to live as normal a life we can. And I think, and I'm pretty sure that you agree that when we have these breakdowns, they usually lead to some type of incredible breakthrough.
Right.
And I know that self it really has. So one of the things we can do is, in many ways, people might shoot me for this, but in many ways I love the media. And I love the media for their ability to get messages out. I mean, in a sense, that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're using a form of media to get it out. As far as getting a blow by blow report about what's happening with the coronavirus will absolutely drive you insane, because it changes every moment. I know if I've tuned in for a day or two, I hear so many different stories and versions and things that are going on. And believe me, if there's something really life altering or some kind of hot news, somebody will tell you. You don't have to necessarily hear it for yourself on the news. You'll find out about it. The other thing is practice mindfulness. And as we just talked about, and acceptance, focus on, what can I do now, as opposed to why did this happen? Practice patience with yourself and others. And, try to lower those levels of anxiety. You can listen to music. I'll tell you what I've been doing lately, besides meditating, is watching a lot of comedies, because comedies do, they lift your spirits. They love, your cells love laughter. Your cells they're all little brains. And so they love to listen to uplifting things or movies or music and comedies. It just really uplifts you. And I know there was this story of Dr. Norman Cousins, who cured himself with laughter. And stop awfulizing situations and ruminating over how terrible it is. It's just it lowers your resistance, for one thing. It heightens your stress level. It lowers your resistance. And maybe get out of your area of, if you're really upset, step out of that and see if you can help somebody else, which is another thing that I'm working on. But okay, there's a couple of more things, but I really wanted to hear from you as well, Niobe. What do you think? What are other ways that we can minimize this fear and anxiety?
One way is turn off your phone. Don't look at the news. Don't look at the news online. Don't look at Facebook. Just turn it. Don't look at YouTube. Turn it off. Give yourself a diet. Give yourself a break away. Because that is, I've had to do that. It just isn't, it increases the anxiety. It increases the fear. It increases the concern, because everything is changing just day to day, moment to moment. And what can we do about it? We really can't do anything about it. You're home, or you're being able to work, and then you go home. So turn off your TV and turn off the news. Just turn off the news. And then you were talking about movies, Michele, and it's like recently I watched Pet Story 2, the animated. Oh my God, that was just a riot. It's like, I said that, I remember hearing my parents say this, and I said that growing up, and I say it now. Animated films and all cartoons are made for adults too, very much so.
Yes, yes.
Oh, it was so much fun to watch that. And then, my sweetie brought that to me. He goes, "You seen the Pet Stories?" I know, and it was the best thing. It was like, it was medicine. It was a balm. And then to a friend soul here. And then the next thing is we watched a nature channel, and it was about going just really different things about down in the depths of the ocean. It was about different species that had been thought extinct, but yet actually found alive, and or humans were being able to repopulate and bring the species back. But it was all from the ocean. It's what it was. So we were able to, watching this beautiful ocean is like, and learning about, what was it? It's learning about a form of coral that is so deep down in the China Sea. It's 11,000 years old. And it's
That's
like unbelievable. And it takes your mind into away from what our human minds, our humanness is creating, and reminds us that there is something much more broad, something much more real. This is a moment in history that we are experiencing, and that our souls signed up for us. We all signed up for this and said, okay, I'm going to be alive during this time. I'm going to be bearing a witness to everything that's going on.
What a choice.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what a choice. It's like, God, did I really mean this? Yeah, you did. That's what your soul comes back. You did. But there's things to remind us that, that, like I said, nature, and then the fun laughter movies that bring us back into, you find the light within somewhere. You find the light.
I agree with that so much. And I think it's so interesting how, if we sit and really think about how this experience has changed our lives. Now, just in a little way, I posted the other day that I've been living in my house 20 years. I love my house. It's beautiful. I have a gorgeous pool in the backyard and the whole area. And I got to tell you something. I just started now swimming in that pool. I mean, on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just never, I would go in if we had company. It was more for the kids, the grandkids, things like that. And that was really the reason. And the other day, or last week when I started, I said, I can't believe this. Shame on me for not taking advantage of this beautiful area. But not only that, the trees, and I have a bird feeder, and it's so full of life, and I have plants that what are those plants that attract the butterflies? Milkweed, that's what it is.
Okay.
And they attract, the butterflies lay eggs on it. In fact, I have a couple of chrysalis now, and I have to tell you, they find the most interesting places to hook themselves to. They hook themselves on the back of one of my chairs outside. And I thought, that's really
Oh
bizarre.
my goodness.
Yeah. And I was in the pool, and at the edge, I noticed that was a little caterpillar that had lost his way, or her way, his way, her way. And they're all monarch butterflies, by the way. To watch them emerge. Now, that is something that I always love watching. That's the reason I had the milkweed. But being in the pool and exercising and relaxing and looking at that blue sky and looking and listening to the birds, and I'm going, wow, all these years, and I've been missing this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So now it's a regular treat for me, and I appreciate it so much more, and I'm so grateful for it. And it really was a catalyst for me to also think about, what are the other things that I'm allowing to pass me by that I haven't paid attention to, and what new things can I do? And so I've had a lot of aha moments and a lot of awakenings, and I do hope that for other people, that's what this is doing, giving you a new appreciation for what you do have, but also making us think outside the box, because this has certainly catapulted us out outside of the box. Who would have thought that something like this would have happened? I guess.
Yeah.
I think on a spiritual level, though, a lot of us, I certainly know in numerology, I knew something was happening this year that was big, but not this. I could have never predicted this. I knew that we are in a 22 master year for the world. And but what I say about master numbers, to whom much is given, much is demanded. And it's an opportunity to rise up and to connect with our spiritual self and to do things, live our life in an elevated way and stop the greed and stop the judgment and the fear. And if this doesn't have an impact on all of us, I don't know what would. I don't know, what do we need? Do we need a different type of plague? Do we need locusts and all that kind of stuff to come? And so it's easy to get back to the main topic here. It's easy to fall into fear, especially because we feel out of control. And as human beings, we really like to be in control of situations. We don't like it, I love, what do I hear people say? I love change as long as I'm the change maker,
Oh yeah. And recently I did a meditation a day, and it was about when everything's out of control, what can you control? It's the way you react. The way we choose to react to anything that's going on around us in our life is everything. And I called it the reaction action.
I like that. The
reaction action, because we can just choose to react. It's like, I finally got my hair done yesterday when I got a haircut. And so I'm getting used to it. All right. And, but what I wasn't expecting was, to have everything that's going on in the world show up there with her and me in her chair. And I got just anxiety. And there was things that we were at a place of needing to agree to disagree. But the anxiety was in the room. There was all the stuff. And I just wanted to get my hair cut. I just wanted to relax and get my hair. And so what is my action going to be there was a thing of, I was like saying, I don't want to argue with you. And she says, I don't want to argue with you. And, can we just agree to disagree? But that was tough. I mean, but that's what we're all running into in some way, shape, or form. And so it was, because everything is out of control. What can you control is the way you react about it, the way you choose to react about it. You can let the fear and the anxiety yank you in and grab a hold of you and take you to town, and you both do a dance. And because it's a thing of, well, I'm going to be right, or, I'm going to be right. I'm going to take control of this. This is the way I'm going to find that I'm in control, is my belief systems. Well, is it really that going to be able to bring you control? Or what is a action that can actually bring you what Michele was talking about, like being out in her pool and finding the monarch butterflies and the chrysalis, or like I was saying, watching the PBS and the Nature Channel. What can you, it's about finding something that can bring you peace, because the other choices really bring you into that place of, hey, I can't, it's just be, just let it be.
Yeah, I love that. Right. Let it be. They should write a song title like that, right? Let it be.
I do believe they did.
I think they did. Yeah. And in A Course in Miracles, they say, I can see peace instead of this. Choose again. you know, understanding that in, as you said, like in any situation, you can choose how to respond. You may not be able to change the situation, but you can choose how you respond. I know that like anything else in this world, this coronavirus in many ways have divided a lot of people. Wear masks, don't wear masks. It's a conspiracy, it's not a conspiracy. You know, if whatever your belief is, it's your belief, and I'm going to respect, as long as it doesn't interfere with me, my life, I'm going to respect whatever your belief is. I'm not interested in getting into a debate, because, you know, what happens is if somebody feels really strongly about something, and they have a right to, as long as it doesn't cross over into that, you've got to believe what I, because then you become, it sounds very self-righteous, and that's when it comes into controlling. And in that kind of situation, nobody feels good.
Right.
Nobody does. The person who's trying to convince, I'm trying to convince you that to see the light or see the right way, or the person who is being bombarded or challenged, you know, you don't feel good either, because wait a minute, you know, it's okay, you can believe what you want, but as soon as you take the bait, if somebody throws it out, then you're hooked and you start feeling not good. I don't have to defend how I feel. You don't have to defend how you feel. You can have your beliefs, and again, as long as they don't really interfere with anybody else, you are entitled to them. And I just think, again, that this has raised, it has an opportunity to raise our consciousness, just like anything else, right? Wouldn't it be great if we learned through, wow, you know, that's really interesting. I think I'm going to change, without being hit over the head with the universal 2x4. But that doesn't seem to be our way, does it?
No.
It doesn't seem, it seems that we have to kind of meet these challenges before we do things differently. And I guess as long as we feel that that's the way it's got to be done, because it's all about our belief systems, then that's the way it's going to be done. We'll have to take the harder road. It doesn't always have to be that way, right? If we keep our, again, pipeline open to the universe, to the divine, and like we were talking about, how do you do that? Respond. You don't have to react. Find things that make you feel good. Find your purpose. That's a big one. Find your purpose and your passion. Because there's a couple of things that I always say, probably on every show, is happy people don't do mean things. And happy, right? And
It's
happy,
true. That's true. Yeah.
I don't know a happy person who does anything mean. I challenge somebody to let me know if they find that's different. Happy people don't do mean things.
Right.
And part of being happy is finding your purpose. What are you here? What is your gift? Everybody has a gift to share with the world. And again, I say this a million times, but if your gift is making ice cream and you love to make ice cream, then make the best damn ice cream, because people will come.
Yeah.
They will. I mean, I'll travel for a good ice cream. I really would. So I think that's it, you know, finding your purpose. And there's so many ways you can do it. You can do it by whatever spiritual channels that you are interested in. You could do it with astrology. You could do it with numerology. You could do it with meditation. There's all different ways that you can find your purpose and your passion. But one big way too is getting quiet and getting centered and pay attention. Well, here's another clue. Think about what you love to do as a kid. And I will bet you if I just spent 20 minutes with someone, or maybe even less, and I've done this with clients, you know, talking with them about what did you absolutely love to do when you were a kid? And if you tell me some of your games and what you played and what you enjoyed doing, there's a thread that runs through that that will also reveal what part of what your purpose is in that life. And so I would ask you, Niobe, what did you love to do when you were a kid?
Well, the first thing was it was dance, it was ballet. I was very serious about that. But the one that really came to mind was because we lived out on property for a while. And so there wasn't kids coming over, there wasn't a neighborhood. So what I had is I had 20 acres to go roam around on. And so I would go out on the main part of the field, and there was this giant oak tree that was in the center of the field that was just there and welcoming. And my father had taken me out on walks and taught me nature lore about this is this plant, this is why it does, look at the roots, look how deep, think of it, they even go deeper down. And teaching me also, because in growing up in Oklahoma, it was a thing of, we had snakes, we had different kinds of poisonous snakes. And he said, remember, he says, they're actually more scared of you than you are of them. And he taught me how to really listen and feel the earth and the woods. That was my favorite. That was really, and then there was dance, because when you asked about that, about when we were a kid, that is where I went.
So how did that play out now in this life?
I think what comes is that there is such a respect for everything alive, knowing that there is this, it's a divine cycle, there is a divine purpose for everything, and we're a part of it. We're not separate from it.
And you also, you're a healer. So you're very in touch with energies, the energies of the earth, correct? And the
Absolutely, yes.
And the other planes. So I think that what you had said about understanding it more by, you know, what your father described to you and being in touch with it, that definitely played out in your adult life.
And still does, yes, and still does.
And it still does. And being a dancer is, you know, bringing beauty, and I was into ballet myself and I just absolutely loved it. So it's bringing to an audience, you know, beauty and grace, and you do that with your music. I know that. So that's another way. I do think that there's always clues in our life. And I think it was Socrates who said that his choice would be to take all the children, and I'm paraphrasing it. I had read this book on all the different philosophers and their ideas and their beliefs. And I think it was Socrates who said, take all the children away from their parents and bring them together, and the children would naturally evolve into their unique purpose and talent if you just leave them alone. The kids who love to play in the dirt and with the ground and digging will become the farmers. And this isn't exact, but and the people who will become the politicians in a good sense, because originally politicians were about brotherhood, they would naturally evolve. The ones who were working for the good of all, and the kids who like different plants, and they would become the doctors. And so every child, if you just watch them and watch what they gravitate to, is incredibly enlightening, because it will show you where their passion is, where their talents are. And in when I do numerology, but I do these baby destiny charts for people, and they're framed, and I just love them because it captures the child's soul when they as they came into this incarnation, and their talents and their gifts. And I'm telling you, when I started doing it, I was amazed and I was humbled by the responses that I got from people, like years later, 4 or 5, how did you know that this would be my child? And I wanted it to be something that would help parents, because if you have this little Matthew running around the house and he's touching everything and he's jumping on the sofa, and you think, oh my God, he needs so much more discipline, and you're freaking out, what's he going to be like? And maybe if I did his chart and it said that Matthew was going to be an adventurer, and Matthew was going to want to taste, touch, and feel everything all the time, you could accommodate that, and you could expose this child to just about, you know, all different aspects of life, and, you know, take him not only to museums, but, you know, take him to theater, or to expose the child, because what he wants is experience in life. And for the child that seems more introverted, those are the ones that they're the analyst. And so I was hoping that it would take a lot of fear, if there was any, you know, away from parents, so they looked at their child in a different light and encourage their unique talents and their passions. So it's just really a fun thing for me to do. And I love how it describes who these little souls are. And we were those souls too. We are those souls, but we were those little kids.
Oh, we are. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're talking about this, and I can see both of my children. I absolutely see both of my oldest, the nurse. At 10 years old, I heard something going out in the backyard around, and here, and I look out, and here is my 10-year-old child, and there is the little girl next door, and she's about 3 or 4 and has a friend over, and that little is like, oh, and she's got a splinter in her finger, and these great big crocodile tears, and there is my little boy, helping to pull that splinter out of that little girl's finger, got her calm down. So, well, there's a healer. Yeah, I need to grow up to be a nurse. And then my other child was Lego mania. Oh my God, Legos were all the time, and that was everything. And what does that child do? My child's in manufacturing. My child works for a company that the circuit boards that power stations all over the world.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So yeah.
So yeah, so we kind of talked about a lot of different things today, and but all of it is pretty much the same, you know. Let go of what you can't control and just be very mindful of the present moment. You find fear arising, there's things you can do to change it. And one of the things that you also did mention, and I don't think we talked about that as much, but it's okay to let those feelings out. You know, if you have to scream or break down or whatever it is, do that.
Don't hold it in.
Right. Sometimes we have these ideas that being an adult or being even spiritually evolved is you don't get thrown or tossed about by these things. That's not true. You do.
We have to, it's acknowledging we're human.
Right.
Very human. And the other thing as we were talking, Michele, is about if you can, in that moment of that fear and anxiety, stop yourself and go, wait a minute, and actually pull yourself out and look at yourself, like looking at a movie, okay? And take a stop and go, oh, wait a minute, and really look at what's going on. Look at what's going on inside you. Look at yourself really strongly and go, oh. And when you pull back, like the camera pans back, and you look at yourself, you will get the answer, and you'll see. Absolutely.
I love that. There are times where, and I think what you're talking about is being the observer in your life.
Yes.
And I do that a lot. If I feel that I'm getting upset and I'm have these like, why is that happening? Or why did they say that? And then I have this observer who goes, huh, wow, look at you. Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? What's that about? Huh. And so I have to answer that voice. Yeah, I have to answer that voice and say, okay, let me think about this for a minute. And I can diffuse it. There is a lot of beauty in this world, as much as we might say there's problems and negativity. There's an awful lot of beauty and an awful lot of people with big open hearts. And we just have to remember that, and remember that happy people don't do mean things. So associate with happy people and do things that make you happy, and let go of the fear as much as you can. And so if anyone would like the download or the, I don't think you can really download, I'll have to send it to you. We haven't quite figured out how to do the downloads on these shows, but I can send you this little exercise where you can answer some questions for yourself and see what fears do you have, and maybe you can figure out where they originated, because some of the fears that we have started when we were little, something that somebody said, something that happened to us. Happy to share that with anyone. All they have to do is email me at Michele Landers, and Michele is with one L. So it's Michele. My last name is Landers, Landers, at bellsouth.net. Or you can go to michellelanders.com. You can look me up on Facebook. There's a lot of ways you can get in touch with me if you would like that exercise, and I'd love to share it. And I'd also love to know how, after you did that exercise, what came up for you. So Niobe, I can't believe I was going to call you Naomi. Maybe you were a Naomi in another life. I'm not sure. Niobe, I love spending time with you, and thank you so much. You're such a delight, and you're so uplifting, and I love how you share your energy and your healing with the world. And
Thank you.
yeah, well, thank you. And thank you so much for being a guest and making it so much fun.
Good. I'm happy to have been here. Yes.
So please, everyone, stay tuned. You can see Niobe on a meditate, and you're going to be having a show soon, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So we'll be on.
Yeah, there's
when
gonna
is
be like
it?
two.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Tell me about that again.
There's going to be like two. The one's going to be, the one is actually going to be my work with Mother Earth and that connection that and it's, moments with Mother, the moments with Mother. Yeah. And so moments with Mother that we can all tap into. And so that will be a channeling of her message, of Mother Earth's message. And then it's going to be, Magdalene is coming up quite a bit. Mary Magdalene is coming up quite a bit for me. She's returned. And so there was a period of time that I was doing it. I was channeling Magdalene and Mother Mary. And so we're looking at the messages from the Marys, or just the Marys. Haven't got the title of it yet, but that's, yeah.
Messages from Mary.
Yeah.
Marys, the Mary. That's
the Marys.
That's beautiful. So you'll be sharing that on Enlightened World Network?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. One of the new channels. We've got a new channel. Ruth knows more about that. But yeah, definitely the first one I know I'm going to be stepping into will be Moments with Mother. So
I'm excited for that. I mean, there's the programming on here is just beautiful. And I do have to say that I am so touched by so many people that are so heart-centered gathered in one place, which is uplifting and beautiful. So please,
Agreed.
everyone, stay tuned and check out everything else on Enlightened World Network and EWN Enlightened Living, which that's where this particular show is coming from. And I will see everyone next Thursday at 6 p.m. And again, thank you, Niobe, so much. And everyone,
welcome.
have a great
Bye.
evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.